Good afternoon, all. CamelbackTrading.org coming to you this Friday afternoon, May 7th. We're looking at WinDOTRADER's market profile of the SPY ETFs, IWM and QQQ's market profile. And the market just continues to amaze as we blow to an all-time high today in a bunch of indices, in the S&P, in the Dow, in the transports. We don't make new highs in the Russell or the QQQs, but they have some good legs up. QQQs were ripping early this morning. They do hold their gap, but they have a bit of a bizarre day. We can start with that in a minute. Look what we did in SPY and ES. We opened, had an open test drive where we opened, tested lower, filled the gap, found nothing there, got above the opening, and then A and B just ripped. And then we spent 11 time frames just trading inside of B's range. That's all we did. I caught the low of the day. I caught the afternoon pullback for some very nice trades. I also did some trades, one trade in QQQ. So let's start with QQQ. So they ripped up this morning after the job number. They still have a gap. They're the only one that held their gap. It's not large. It looked like it was going to be huge this morning. It's still over 100 ticks, but not. It looked like it was 400 or 500 ticks at one point this morning when we were trading up here pre-market. They take out their IB to the downside, believe it or not. Just barely. And they didn't do that in NQ, but just barely they did. They end up with an afternoon rally high. I mean, they packed in their volume early today here, but look where it ended up. I did take one trade in them, and I actually got fortunate in it because it certainly went low after I bought it and got out of it. So when the market started rolling over, I said, well, all you're doing is shaking out weak longs here in both ES, SPY, and Qs. But QQQ's got a lot more legs to the downside. I took the long in G, basically above the opening where I got it. It rallied a bit for me where I finally took it off, and then I wasn't liking it. I said, that's it, took the balance of it off, and it was a good thing I did because H, I, and J just pushed lower. That was the only trade I did there. And the reason I did that in QQQs instead of looking for the pullback in G and SPY, because SPY was having trouble filling the single prints. I was waiting for them to fill the single prints. I did not do any trading in Russell. Perfect P shape. P shape here for short covering for us also. Again, I'm going to go over all the charts on all three of these indices. So what happened in SPY today? SPY gapped higher. Finally got its all-time high and the monthly high. Finally got the overnight or pre-market all-time high. Ripped up and then did what I said. As far as my trade, so we opened in A. I didn't do anything right away. I said, I want to see what happens. I said, if we push up actually to the all-time high, I'd look to take a short against it, and I'll get to that in a second. I did. It worked out because we didn't get the acceleration yet. But I didn't do anything right away. It came down, filled the gap, got long. Got long 30 calls of the 418 calls, took them up, and then we started going above the opening. Once we got above the opening out of my call play, we got to the all-time high, which is 420.72. I'm like, the first time there, I want to take a short against it. And I did it. And I actually did it twice with 422 puts because it stopped there. It did not run away when we got to the all-time high. Where is it? Up here. So those two trades worked out. They were nothing big. I was just scalping them to see if we would pause there for the moment. Then in B period. B open. We have a lowest accepted price. And by the way, we have an outside week up. We had an outside day up, which is powerful. And look what we got out of it. Now we have an outside week up at the all-time high. So it's pretty powerful stuff. So then B period. Once we took out the opening and started going, I took longs. In fact, I took the 421 calls. I didn't do it right away, believe it or not. I wish I did. I didn't. But when we started going up, any push down, I was taking longs. And I did that 3 times on the 421 calls. That worked out. And then I did it again in C period with the 421 calls against the single prints. So early trading, most of my trading was early because after that I just did one MES trade. The market was telling us to be nothing but long in B and C. Now, E, I was looking to see, do I want to fade a new high? I didn't. Once we fill the single prints finally, then I was like, well, any new high I would fade, but I didn't get that. So I didn't take the long in G because I was long Qs at that time. But I got another opportunity in J, and I got the afternoon pullback low beautifully as I bought the MES. Only bought 10 of them. I was looking to see if we got the half back or tested B's low. I was going to go long 20 or 30 of the MES. Only bought 10, but took them up and rode them right all the way back to POC. And that was my last trade of the day. And I told the room, I said, I don't expect, everybody, not so much in our room, but you can definitely tell traders once we took out J and K's high, here we go again. We're going to rip like we did yesterday. And I told the room, I said, I think the odds of L&M doing that is slim. I think if anything, L&M are going to trade inside the day's range, possibly take out the day's high, but not get much, or possibly come down and take out J's low and not get much. Well, they did neither. We just traded in the top of the range. We couldn't even probe. So we nailed that one on the head also. Destinations for Monday. One and only one. How many times have you heard that this year? Since it's amazing. One upside destination, which is now a weekly high, all-time high, 422.82. Downside, first destination is our 10 wide at 422.04. Then we have 421.21. That's our afternoon pullback low in J. Then we have 420.88, which was our lowest accepted price in B. And that's a really nice trade. That's where A closes, B opens, doesn't get anything really below it, and goes up. That shows you how strong the buyers are. That's why I call it the lowest accepted price. That becomes the lowest accepted price of the day in the initial balance. And boom, there she goes. And then below that we have today's low of 419.16. And then you should have the other ones, 417.58 price probe from the 6, which we didn't even get close to testing today. We just filled the gap. I was looking to take a long down at the price base of the spike. Never got to it. The other destinations you should have, and remember, 411.67, this week's low. We closed $11 above it. Amazing. Now, let's go to the charts and break all three of these indices down. We'll start with Russell. Top down. Monthly. Still one time framing up. Now, they're not getting the distance they've gotten in previous months, obviously. We have an inside month last month, and so far this week, we're inside again. The key is going to be which way do they come out of the inside month. Now, remember, they're still $10 off their all-time high, and their all-time high also is in the overnight. So they still have a ways to go, but they're still healthy on the monthly for what, 7 months? 7 months, not including this month yet. Weekly. Balance. Still balance. Remember, I said they needed to get above that 228.10 level. Last week they did it barely. Well, not barely. I shouldn't say that. We got above it by $3, but couldn't hold it and close back in it. And now this week we took out last week's low. So it's firmly balanced. So you can use last week's high of 231 as the top of the balance and 208 is the bottom. So it's a large balance, but it's certainly balanced, waiting for more market-generated information. And in the daily, they've been battling the 20 and 50-day moving average for a while now. Look at this. Look how long back and forth through it. I mean, easily back to early March. They're still battling it. 4-day balance right now that they're in. So the weekly and the daily are in balance. The monthly is up, and it has an inside month that it has to deal with. Triple Qs. Now, they've been in balance for a while now. Let's see if that holds. Here's your monthly. Still balanced. It's a 4-month balance. Weekly. We came out of balance to the downside, right? We came out of a 3-week balance to the downside. So even though we came back and closed into it, again, it's subjective. Do you want to, you can still call it down. Right? There was a 3-week balance that we came out of pretty strongly. We went down. We didn't test the 324.64 low, almost. So again, you could either call it a 5-week balance or you could even call it down. Again, it's subjective. So I'm going to call it, you know what? I'm going to still call it down for now because I don't like, even though we closed back inside of here, I don't like the way they took out those 3 weekly lows. So I'm going to call it down on the weekly. And the daily, came out of a 3-day balance to the upside, closed the gap, bumped its head against the 20-day moving average, and then look at that. Closed right in the middle. Look at that. So that's a lot of indecision to me. So the one thing they did, they held the 50-day moving average for the past 3 days. Today, closed that gap. So now we're stuck between the 20 and the 50. So the monthly's balance, the weekly's down, and the daily's up. Three different things for all 3 time frames. Now, here's the leader of the pack, not including the transports and everything. SPY and ES. Look at this chart. Still getting distance away from prior months. 6 months, one time framing up. Well, actually, it's 7 months, including this month now, as we continue to roll. Healthy, very healthy. Weekly. Now, we stopped the one-time framing up, came into balance. I'm still calling it balance. However, it's an outside week up, which means we took out last week's low, but closed above last week's high. Pretty bullish. So now I would expect some follow-through to get distance away and resume up. Right now I'm calling it balance, but we'll see if we go up next week. Pretty bullish. And then on the daily, look at how bullish the outside day up was. We took out yesterday's low, closed above it, the high, and boom, exploded to the upside. We went from balance back to up. So the monthly's up, the daily's up, the weekly is balanced, but it has an outside week up, which is very, very bullish. We tested below the 20-day moving average twice this week, but closed above it, and now we went back bull. 66 million shares. That's, again, one of the things that we want to see improve as this market continues to go higher, as the average volume's 80 million. I mean, it doesn't matter what earnings are, anything else. All that matters is you continually keep hearing the Fed using all their tools and everything else. The only thing that will ever derail this market is if inflation, which we all know is there, but if the Fed believes it, and I think they do privately, but if the Fed ever comes out and says inflation will become a problem, that's the only thing that's going to derail this market. Otherwise, I will keep looking for new all-time highs in the S&P and the SPY. We had a really good room in the trading room this week. Come check us out at camelbacktrading.org. Have a great weekend, and we'll speak prior to the opening on Monday.